is now being held without bail, accused of murdering a young mother in her home. As WBZ's Nick Giovanni tells us, the suspect's social media posts may reveal a motive.
22-year-old Leonard Robinson stood before a judge inside Lowell District Court Tuesday morning to face the charge of murder for the death of 22-year-old Dejah Jenkins-Minus.
Welcome to CRIMELENS Report. While most families were carving turkey and counting blessings on Thanksgiving Day 2021, a 22-year-old mother was taking her last breath as a knife plunged into her body for the 58th time. As dinner tables across America filled with laughter and gratitude, Dejah Jenkins-Minus lay dying on the floor of a locked bedroom in Lowell, Massachusetts, murdered by the one person who should have protected her, the father of her 2-month-old daughter. Have you ever trusted someone who later revealed a monster beneath the mask? Have you ignored red flags in a relationship because you wanted to believe the best in someone? Have you seen jealousy consume someone in your community until it became something dangerous? Most of us have witnessed the warning signs, the possessiveness disguised as love, the accusations masked as concern, the threats we dismissed as empty words. But what happens when those warnings are ignored? What happens when toxic love crosses the line from control to carnage? This is the reality Dejah Jenkins-Minus faced. A devoted young mother with her entire life stretching before her. A woman who believed the father of her child deserved another chance. A daughter, a friend, a human being who made one fatal decision: to trust him one more time. The crime scene would later tell a story of absolute brutality. 58 stab wounds covered her body and the back of her head. Her neck was fractured. Defensive wounds marked her hands and arms. The silent testimony of a woman who fought with everything she had to survive, to get back to her baby, to see one more sunrise. But she never stood a chance against the rage that had been building behind his eyes. What drives a father to savagely butcher the mother of his infant daughter? What kind of jealousy transforms a man into a killer? And what digital trail would ultimately lead investigators straight to him? A trail he never knew he was leaving behind? This is the murder of Dejah Jenkins-Minus, a Thanksgiving tragedy that exposes the deadly truth about domestic violence, unchecked rage, and the price of ignoring red flags until it's too late. Before we go further into this case, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling us your name and where you're watching from so we can give you a shout out in our next video, and subscribe to CRIMELENS Report to support real stories that raise real awareness. These cases matter. Your voice matters. Now let's uncover what really happened on that Thanksgiving Day in 2021. In the fall of 2021, Dejah Jenkins-Minus was living the beautiful chaos of new motherhood. At just 22 years old, the young Boston woman had recently welcomed a baby daughter into the world, and by all accounts, she was devoted to that little girl. Friends and family watched as Dejah embraced every moment with her newborn. The sleepless nights, the first smiles, the overwhelming love that only a mother knows. Her baby's first Thanksgiving was approaching, and it should have been a joyful milestone, a memory to cherish for years to come. But Dejah's life was complicated by one significant factor: Leonard Robinson, the father of her child. Their relationship was tumultuous at best. On again, off again, marked by the kind of instability that worried those who cared about her. Despite the rocky history, Robinson was her daughter's father, and Dejah seemed committed to maintaining some connection, perhaps hoping things could improve for the sake of their child. As Thanksgiving Day 2021 approached, Dejah made plans that would seal her fate. She would drive from Boston to Lowell, Massachusetts, to visit Robinson at his home on Llewellyn Street in the early hours of Thanksgiving morning. The plan was simple: spend some time with him, then return to Boston to celebrate the holiday with her own family. It was supposed to be a quick visit. She had people waiting for her, a table set with her name in mind, and a mother who couldn't wait to see her daughter and grandbaby walk through the door. Text messages between Dejah and Robinson tell us she arrived at his residence around 1 a.m. on Thursday, November 25th. The messages confirmed what would become a critical piece of the timeline. A neighbor, Roger Rondo, would later recall seeing her arrive closer to 3 a.m., carrying her infant daughter in a carrier along with a bag. Robinson opened the door and let her inside. It was the last time anyone other than her killer would see Dejah Jenkins-Minus alive. As Thanksgiving Day unfolded across Massachusetts, Dejah's family in Boston prepared their celebration. The turkey roasted, the table was set, and they waited. Hours passed. Dejah's expected arrival time came and went. Phone calls to her cell went straight to voicemail. Text messages sat unread, the blue check marks never appearing. What started as mild concern began to shift into something much heavier. Where is she? Why wasn't she answering? Latoya Minus, Dejah's mother, felt the weight of intuition that only a parent understands, that gnawing sense that something was terribly wrong. She opened the Find My iPhone app on her device, hoping for answers. The signal appeared, but it wasn't moving. Dejah's phone was stationary, the location pin hovering over the Llewellyn Street address in Lowell, where she'd gone hours earlier. Driven by fear and maternal instinct, Latoya made the drive from Boston to Lowell that night. When she arrived at the address, her worst fears seemed to take shape. The house sat in darkness. Every door was locked. The windows revealed nothing. And Dejah's car, the vehicle she'd driven there in the early morning hours, was gone. There was no sign of her daughter, no sign of the baby, no sign of life at all. Latoya remained there through the night, a mother's vigil born of desperation. She waited, watched, and hoped for any indication that Dejah was okay. But dawn broke on Friday, November 26th, and still nothing. No movement, no answers, no Dejah. That's when Latoya Minus picked up her phone and called 911, requesting a well-being check on her daughter. She had no way of knowing that behind that locked bedroom door, the worst had already happened. When Lowell police officers arrived at the Llewellyn Street home on the morning of Friday, November 26th, they had no idea what waited inside. A family member, desperate for answers, had already gained access to the house through an open window. The interior was unsettlingly quiet. No voices, no movement, just oppressive silence hanging in the air. But there was one door that wouldn't open. A bedroom door at the back of the house, locked from the inside. The family member called out. No response. Knocked. Nothing. That locked door became the final barrier between hope and the nightmare that lay beyond it. There was no choice but to force entry. The relative began kicking the door, hitting it with everything they had. The wood resisted, held firm, as if trying to protect them from what they were about to discover. But eventually, the lock gave way, and the door swung open. Dejah Jenkins-Minus lay on the floor next to an air mattress. A massive pool of blood surrounded her body, the stains spreading across the floor in a way that made it clear she had been there for hours. This wasn't a simple tragedy. This was annihilation. The brutality of what had been done to her was beyond comprehension. 58 stab wounds. 58 separate moments where a knife entered her body. The wounds covered her torso, her back, even the back of her head. Her neck had been fractured, shattered by the force of the attack. But perhaps the most heartbreaking evidence was found on her hands and arms, defensive wounds. Deep cuts that told the story of a young woman who refused to give up, who fought back with every ounce of strength she possessed, who clawed and struggled to survive so she could return her baby girl. The murder weapon, a knife, was recovered near her body. When a medical examiner later conducted the autopsy, the ruling was definitive: homicide by multiple sharp force injuries. Dejah Jenkins-Minus had been murdered in cold blood while families across the country gave thanks. But there was another devastating realization in that moment of discovery. Leonard Robinson was gone, and so was the 2-month-old baby. He had fled the scene, taking the infant daughter with him, leaving Dejah's body behind like she meant nothing at all. The neighbor, Roger Rondo, would later provide a statement to reporters that crystallized the horror of that day. He had seen Robinson get into Dejah's car and drive away around 1:50 p.m. on Thursday, Thanksgiving afternoon. Rondo's words haunted everyone who heard them. While my family sat down for Thanksgiving dinner, she was already dead in that room. Think about that for a moment. While millions of Americans were passing plates of mashed potatoes, holding hands around tables, expressing gratitude for their loved ones, Dejah lay murdered just feet away from where a neighbor's family celebrated. Life and death, separated only by walls and circumstance. The cruelty of that timing, the juxtaposition of joy and horror happening simultaneously, made an already unbearable tragedy even more gut-wrenching. A mother had been slaughtered, a baby was missing, and a man responsible had hours of head start. This investigation is about to reveal something even more disturbing about the killer. A digital footprint he didn't know he was leaving, and a history of violence that should have prevented this tragedy. But before we continue, do something important. Share this video. Dejah's story deserves to be heard. Her family is still fighting for justice, and sharing her story might help someone else recognize these deadly warning signs before it's too late. Hit that share button right now, because what investigators discovered next would expose just how preventable this murder really was. Leonard D. Robinson wasn't some stranger who broke into Dejah's life. He was the father of her child. At just 22 years old, the same age as Dejah, he was the man she had chosen to trust, the man whose baby she had carried and delivered, the man she hoped could be a father to their daughter. But those who knew them understood the relationship was troubled from the start. On again, off again, marked by conflict and instability that never seemed to resolve. The birth of their daughter should have been a turning point, a moment that brought them together for the sake of their child. Instead, it ignited something toxic in Robinson. Rather than stepping into fatherhood with responsibility and love, he became consumed by doubt and rage. His social media accounts became a public diary of his deteriorating mental state. Robinson posted repeatedly, questioning whether he was even the biological father of the baby. He demanded a DNA test in public forums where friends, family, and strangers could see his accusations. He openly accused Dejah of infidelity, dragging her name through the digital mud. Post after post, he expressed direct anger at her, his words dripping with resentment and possessiveness. These weren't private conversations. This was public humiliation, a campaign to destroy her reputation while feeding his own paranoia. Prosecutors would later examine these posts carefully, calling them a window into his motive. The pattern was undeniable. Jealousy, suspicion, public shaming, and a need to control the narrative around the relationship. Robinson couldn't accept that Dejah had autonomy. He couldn't tolerate the idea that she might have moved on or that the child might somehow challenge his sense of ownership over her life. But the social media posts were just the surface. Robinson's history revealed far more dangerous warning signs. At only 22 years old, he was already on probation for 2 separate firearms cases out of Suffolk Superior Court in Boston. Think about that. Before he could legally rent a car, he had 2 gun charges on his record. As conditions of his probation, Robinson was required to wear a GPS ankle monitor and follow strict curfew restrictions. He was a known offender, a man the justice system was actively tracking because they understood he posed a risk. The dark irony? The guns involved in those firearms cases have been discovered in Dejah's car. Their lives were entangled in the worst possible ways. She was connected to his criminal activity, whether willingly or by manipulation. The very vehicle she drove to see him that Thanksgiving morning had once held his illegal weapons. Here was a young man with a documented violent criminal history. A man with illegal access to weapons. A man whose jealousy was on full public display. A man under court supervision because he'd already proven he couldn't be trusted to follow the law. Every single red flag was present. Every warning sign screamed danger. Looking back, Robinson's capacity for extreme violence wasn't a secret. It was documented, known, tracked. The system had identified him as a threat. Dejah's family likely sensed the danger in their on-again, off-again dynamic. And yet, on Thanksgiving morning 2021, Dejah still made the decision to visit him. perhaps believing he wouldn't actually hurt her, perhaps thinking their shared child meant something to him, perhaps hoping for co-parenting peace. She couldn't have known that his jealousy, his criminal mindset, and his rage had already calcified into a decision to kill her. But the warning signs were there, all of them, and that's what makes this tragedy so painfully preventable. Leonard Robinson made a critical mistake that would ultimately lead police straight to him. The GPS ankle monitor he was legally required to wear, the very device meant to track his compliance with probation, became the prosecution's most damning evidence. He was being watched, and he either forgot or simply didn't care. Technology doesn't lie, and the story it told was devastating. GPS data pulled from Robinson's ankle monitor placed him at the Llewellyn Street crime scene until approximately 2:00 p.m. on Thursday, November 25th, Thanksgiving Day. That timeline aligned perfectly with the neighbor's account. Roger Rondo witnessed Robinson getting into Dejah's car and driving away around 1:50 p.m. The technology and human testimony matched, creating an airtight timeline that placed Robinson at the scene during the exact window when Dejah was murdered. But the GPS data revealed even more. After leaving the crime scene in Dejah's stolen vehicle, Robinson fled south on Interstate 93, heading back toward Boston. By 3 p.m., the tracking showed he had arrived in the Dorchester neighborhood. He drove through the city streets with Dejah's infant daughter in the car, a man on the run with a baby who had just lost her mother. It wasn't until 4:56 p.m., nearly 3 hours after leaving the murder scene, that Robinson finally cut off the GPS bracelet, severing his electronic connection to law enforcement. But by then, the damage was done. The device had already created a complete electronic path from the crime scene in Lowell to his location in Boston. He had handed investigators a map of his escape route without even realizing it. Robinson became a fugitive, disappearing into Boston with a 2-month-old baby. A manhunt intensified over the following days. Authorities knew who they were looking for, they knew what he'd done, and they knew he had an infant child with him. The pressure mounted. There was nowhere left to hide. On November 29, 2021, 4 days after the murder, authorities located Leonard Robinson in Boston. He was arrested without incident. Most importantly, Dejah's infant daughter was found safe and immediately reunited with her grieving maternal family. The baby who had lost her mother would at least be surrounded by people who loved her. When police interrogated Robinson, his lies crumbled as fast as he could tell them. His first claim was simple: "I haven't seen her in 2 weeks." Detectives presented the text messages, the neighbor's eyewitness account, and the GPS data. Robinson's story changed immediately. His second attempt was only slightly more creative. "She came to my home, but I didn't let her inside." The evidence destroyed both versions of his story. Text messages confirmed she'd been inside. The GPS monitor placed him at the scene for hours. Her body was found in his bedroom. His inconsistent, provably false statements only strengthened the murder case against him. He had lied, been caught, lied again, and been caught again. There was no version of events where Leonard Robinson was innocent. The courtroom confrontation is coming, and what happens next will show you exactly how the justice system responds to this kind of brutality. But first, are you subscribed to CRIMELENS Report? This channel brings you real crime stories that teach real-life lessons. Click subscribe and turn on notifications. These stories matter, and you being here matters. Let's continue. On November 30th, 2021, Leonard D. Robinson was arraigned in Lowell District Court. Dejah's heartbroken family filled the courtroom, forced to sit mere feet away from the man who had stolen their daughter, their sister, their loved one. Robinson stood before the judge and entered his plea, not guilty. Middlesex Assistant District Attorney Thomas Brandt laid out the horror for the court. 58 stab wounds, a fractured neck, social media posts that provided a clear window into Robinson's motive: jealousy, rage, obsession. Brandt's words were measured but damning. A tragic death that was caused by him on Thanksgiving Day. Given the extreme brutality of the crime and Robinson's prior violent convictions, the judge ordered him held without bail. He would remain in custody as the case moved forward. But one moment in that courtroom stood out for its sheer absurdity. Robinson's defense attorney expressed concern for his client's safety in jail. The gallery, filled with Dejah's grieving family and supporters, erupted in audible laughter and disbelief. Court officers had to restore order. The man who had stabbed a young mother 58 times was worried about his own safety. The irony was not lost on anyone in that room. In the days that followed, Dejah-Minus posted a devastating message on Facebook. "Life for me will never be the same, and I need time to adjust. Keep her memory alive." A mother's grief, raw and permanent, expressed in words that no parent should ever have to write. A GoFundMe campaign was established to support the baby girl who would now grow up without her mother, relying on the love of her maternal family to fill an unfillable void. A probable cause hearing was scheduled for December 30th, 2021. But here's where the story takes another painful turn. As of late 2024, this case is still awaiting trial. Dejah's family continues to endure the prolonged agony of waiting for justice, years after her murder. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but for those left behind, every day without resolution is another day of suffering. So what can we learn from Dejah's tragedy? Jealousy and possessiveness are not love. They are control. Public accusations and social media threats are rehearsals for real-world violence. When you combine criminal history, access to weapons, and relationship volatility, you create a lethal combination. On-again, off-again relationships that include patterns of abuse rarely end safely. And perhaps most importantly, trust your instincts. When someone shows you violent tendencies, believe them the first time. Dejah Jenkins-Minus should be watching her daughter grow up right now. Instead, her family waits for a trial while mourning a beautiful life stolen by jealous rage. If this story impacted you, honor Dejah's memory. Like this video, share it so others can learn these warning signs, and subscribe to CRIMELENS Report. Drop a comment. What can we do as a society to prevent tragedies like this? And remember, if you or someone you know is trapped in a dangerous relationship, reach out for help. Your life is worth fighting for. This has been CRIMELENS Report, where true crime teaches true lessons. Until next time, stay aware, stay safe, and never ignore the red flags. They could save a life.